In a bid to avert an international war for Africa's resources, Western countries gathered together in Berlin in 1885 to share Africa's resources. They call this the Scramble for Africa. At that meeting, the revolution, the Industrial Revolution for the West, was guaranteed. Distinguished judges, talkmates. Half of the world's resources are dominant in Africa. From coltan, which is a rare resource found only in DR Congo, to cocoa, which satisfies the world's lust for chocolate. Africa has provided the West with an ability to develop its industry, being the lifeline for the West. The emerging markets of Africa have been known to be the new place where the West finds its resource developed and used. The World Trade Organization mentions that Africa as an emerging market, with Egypt, South Africa, and Nigeria as the dominant factors, pays for the goods brought in by the West. Now to population. With an aging labor force and low birth rates, the Western nations now need the African population to work for them. And so we go by all forms, lotteries and migration. In Africa, we call that brain drain. To the West, it's brain gain. Africa is truly the lifeline that supports the survival of the West. Thank you. Might I remind my intellectual opponent that this debate is not about who does what trade. It's about who gives what. The lifeline, where does it come from? You mentioned trade to Africa, yes, but even Europe receives trade. Did you know that Ireland received $10 billion in trade? Spain, $3 billion to aid their agricultural industry? Because of that, Spain's agriculture has improved. But the issue is about Africa. So if we talk about aid, everybody receives aid. You just hear about some more than the others. And the African debt is more than the aid. The debt Africa pays is more than the aid we get. And so we are at the loss for it. Recently, I made an interesting discovery. Globalsecurity.org stated in a report, a recently unclassified report, that the West depends on Africa's resources. The United States wrote in the report that they depend on Africa's resources to further their defense industry and their industrial revolution. And they are working hard with plans on how to make it stay that way. Thank you.
Femi, it was quite interesting listening to you, but somehow I'm a little bit disturbed that at this stage you still appear to be cramming what you've got to say. I think it became more apparent when I listened to what your opponent had to say. You came alive when you were rebutting, but it was quite obvious that you needed her to prod you as opposed to you standing your ground.
Your Excellencies, permit me to talk to you about something that is dear to my heart. A topic that has scarred the heart of Africa and wounded its souls. It's the topic of child labor in Africa. Article 6 of the UN Convention for Child Rights guarantees their right to survive and their right to life. But that right is taken away from them when they have no education, when they work on plantations and in the diamond mines all over Africa. You have seen it on TV. You heard it in the radio, you heard it in the newspapers. The stories of war and sadness, African children, victims of child labor. But there is nothing that can be compared to the sight of their amputated spirits. And so I urge you, I ask you, I beg you, come together and take a unified position. End child labor in Africa now. Enforce the policies that defend the children's rights. I will be a father someday. And I would not want any suffering on my children, as you. But my children and your children and these children have a lot in common. They all breathe the same air. Blood flows in their veins and their beautiful hearts all beat as one. But the warmth of the heart of Africa is in its future, and these children are the future. You hold your future in your hands. Protect it. Defend it. Embrace it. Come together. Take that stand. End child labor in Africa. End it now. Thank you.
Femi, you got the passion down pat, very passionate. A very strong advocacy for children. But you didn't give me as a government man an economic imperative for stopping it. You didn't give me a substitute for the economy of child labor. But all in all, you got the passion part.
Thank you, sir.
Well done.